Okay, good evening, everyone. We are back, and we have on the line with us our brother, Brother Perry.
Good evening.
Good evening. Everything all right on your end?
Oh yes, just fine, thank you.
uh, we did not get a chance to speak for everyone that's just joining in with us. Um, we didn't get a chance to talk about the um, the last recording that we did. Um, Video number 12, part one. And I just wanted to touch on this particular recording, get pretty much a feel for what you all might have thought. And I thought that I would talk to Brother Perry and see what he thought, get some of his input. Some of you have been commenting online. Some have sent emails in. We're going to be responding to those a little bit later on. But as it stands right now, uh, Brother Perry, what did you think in the great reveal in last night's video?
Well, as I commented, that was a very profound video. It's very deep. I know a lot of people are excited to hear it. Um, excited in different ways. Excited in that, wow, somebody is speaking up, bringing it out. Also excited that it looks like, it sounds like things are really gonna, there should really be a change. I felt like it was extremely profound. I think it was a great video.
And how surprising was it to see that they were so bold as to try to write protections within the law to protect them for violating the law.
And you know what? That's okay. You brought that out, which is very, very good. That is the written bullying.
Yeah.
It's written into the law. And I haven't seen one of those books. I've been gone for a minute now.
Uh
I
huh.
haven't seen one of those constitutions in years. And so you brought that 2023 out, and I'm like, wow, look at the cover. It's got a nice cover and everything. Boy, they really distracted the people.
Yeah. Incidentally, when those constitutions came out, and it wasn't just the constitutions, but I'll show you here. This is just it's too you can't make this stuff up. But we went from what he's talking about for everyone to understand. We went from this. These books were $1. The constitutions since forever, and now
Construction paper covered.
right, and so they came out with the glossy covered, new and improved, uh, the later version, the newer version of the the Constitution. Um, and incidentally, because they've added glossy paper and a little bit more size, rather than what is this about? That's about a 5 by 8. This is maybe a 10 by 7. Um, so they they're charging now, instead of $1 for this, they're charging $4 for this.
Oh wow.
Right. For the glossy, the new and improved, glossy.
That's the deluxe model.
Right, the deluxe. And I showed the wrong one. This is same thing. This is the supreme. This is the supreme laws for the government of the House of Prayer, and also $1. But this is the new and improved, and I'm showing it on the video. This was 2022. There is no 2023, and the reason why we have a 2022 of the Constitution and a 2023 of the Constitution is because in the 22, remember, this was rigged. It was jacked. They came up with an illegal constitution where they pushed it through the General Assembly knowing that the people pretty much are going to give Addy what he wants, right? Um, so the following year, they had the newer um, constitution that had the results of the vote in it. There is no newer supreme law. And the reason for that is when they first came out with the Constitution, the new and improved, the glossy, for $4, these are also $4. Now, it's interesting to know that these were $1, and there's no change from this to this. There's absolutely no changes. They didn't change anything in it. The only thing they changed was it went to glossy paper. It's a little bit larger. And quite frankly, if you look at it, let's just open it up. It's really just a sheet of paper, right? And typed, they produced the law by putting on a half sheet, right? They just folded one sheet of paper in half, right? And the law is printed on a half of a sheet of paper. And then the binding cover is glossy carbon paper. Okay, I used to do this stuff all the time with some office supplies. Anyway, long story short, and that's why we're going to talk about how the election was rigged also, because there's some things that y'all messed up. You did on the election day. You messed up. And it really gives away the fact that the whole election was rigged. We're going to be talking about that too. But this is $4, and there's no 2023. This is 2022. But there's no 23 because there's no corrections in 20 that needed to be corrected in 22. So anyway, that brings us back to our point. What we were talking about and what you just heard from Brother Perry is it goes to show you the bullying. They bully in writing. It is written and expressed bullying. They verbally well, let me just ask, have you ever heard of any cases where people have been verbally bullied throughout the organization, Brother Perry?
Yeah, all the time.
Are you for real?
I mean, it's like normal language. It's like part of the culture, I think, or something. It's like normal language among the men at least, and then a lot of the older women too. They like try to talk to you like a man. But yeah, it's a constant thing. Like if you don't know what they know, you don't have common sense or something. I don't know.
And I just heard last night one of the members was telling me in their congregation. I won't talk about which one. I don't want to put their pastor on blast quite yet. But this pastor happens to be a council member, a traveling council member. This pastor actually happens to be pretty big on the, the general council as well. And there was an incident, and they actually told one of the members they're going to lay hands on him. And it was taken, by surprise when they said it. I won't go into too many details. As you just heard him say, this is pretty common that people are told that they might, lay hands. And by laying hands, we're not talking about getting the olive oil and praying for people.
Oh
We're talking about, reaching out. Remember that commercial? Reaching out and touch someone. Touch someone. But this is common. This happens quite frequently. But it's the norm. People just, kind of brush it off. But let me read this again for those of you who have not seen video number 12, part 1. In the old Constitution, section 8, it says the bishop, under Article 7, it says the bishop may be removed from office for incompetency and for violating the laws of the faith or of the church or of the New Testament. And in section 9, it says the bishop may be tried for violations above mentioned, and it goes into detail about how to try the bishop. And it says in Section 11, all powers of the bishop shall be suspended from the time he's properly furnished with a copy of the charge from the General Assembly. Now, they did a hack job, and this is the part that really got me. Section 8G, pay attention. The senior minister who shall,
Big dog.
huh?
Big dog.
The big dog. I called him in the other video. This is his right hand man. Okay, the bishop. This is
The boy on the
right.
Yeah, I caught that.
Right. You can't make this up. They actually put in the Constitution that the bishop, if he gets caught violating the law, and someone files a charge against him, if there's going to be a trial, this is what they've inserted into the Constitution, making the people believe that they did this, right? 8G, the senior minister who shall preside over the trial of the bishop shall designate a special prosecutor from among the general council of all people.
It's about to be a gang fight.
They take care of the bishop.
That's right.
For decades, all they've done was, bring the glass, bring the chips and dip, scratches back, whatever it is.
Water's too cold.
Yeah, what?
$2,000.
And what he just said, I don't think y'all heard that. What was that again, Brother Perry?
If the water is too cold for the bishop, fine him $2,000.
The water's too cold.
This is
Fine.
something that has happened.
Oh, wait, what?
That is something that has happened.
Oh, what's the details there?
Charlotte Convocation. When we were still in the pool, the water was too cold. Chairman got fined $2,000.
Oh, yeah. The old House of Prayer,
Right.
Beatty's Ford Road in the back.
That's right.
The back parking lot used to have an in-ground pool. Let me see. Yeah, in-ground. Columbia, South Carolina had above ground.
Above ground. That's right.
You step up, then step down into the pool, get baptized, step up, and then step down again. Charlotte, Beatty's Ford had an in-ground pool. You step down, get baptized, step up. And I remember October, I think the largest in the newspaper was something like 1,300 people there to get submerged. And the water would be cold because they would run the water from the garden hose to fill it up like that week prior. And it would be cold. But the bishop and the council would have to be down there the whole time. For those getting baptized, we going to get down in there and we getting up and we out. But they down there the whole time. So what he just said is if it's too cold, you ain't going to hear it from the bishop. He ain't going to tell you, the members, nothing. He going to tell the councilman. And they're going to bring that back to council. And then that pastor, he going to get fined. You said $1,000?
He got fined $2,000.
Ooh. Because the water was cold. Now, you getting fines like that, then the question is, what other things are you getting fined for? Because he was uncomfortable, so you got to pay $2,000, Jack. And it's this kind of bullying tactics that he's talking. What he's talking about. It's really extortion. It's really extortion. Extortion is, if I'm not mistaken, utilizing threats or the promise or insinuating that you're going to do something as a penalty for someone who does not do what it is that you want them to do for you. You're kind of coercion. You're coercing people to do things against their will. And the pastors know if they don't pay this, well, this is going to be held against them. Thus, they'll lose their position, lose their title, yada, yada, yada. But that is extortion. Um, with that said, you know of any other crazy situations where any of the pastors got fined, or even some of the members, by the council working on behalf of the bishop?
Yeah, I know a few of those ones that happened to me. But yeah, I can't articulate them all right now. I mean, it's like I said, I've been I think I left in 2010 or 11.
What's one of the ones that took place with you?
Um,
A crazy fine you received?
it was in the beginning of me pastoring, and it had something to do with my G class report. I didn't do something right on my report,
Mm.
and so well, God, I can't recall exactly how it happened,
Yeah.
but what the outcome was that my credential was being held until I straightened it out.
Yeah. The
It was something like more money was mentioned or something like that. And I remember I had to come out of my pocket. It wasn't a fine, but I had to pay more money.
even the envelopes had to
Yeah, they
be
got to be
filled
filled
out.
out right. Yeah, I believe that's what it was. I believe
Yep.
it was the envelope.
Yep. Because if a pastor passes up the envelope, now he's not the one that filled out the envelope. And for all of you who don't know what I'm talking about, in the Are You Aware? Let me see. There's nothing on here, nothing on here, nothing on here. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. Uh, this video is for educational purposes only and information for all of those interested parties in this information that we're providing. Um, but let me show you one page. This is a sample of how the envelope is to be written out. Okay. Now, this is for anybody to see. Anybody can go to the houses of prayers and buy this literature, especially Memorial Day weekend, whenever they have are set up on that weekend. You can walk in. Anybody can walk in and purchase this literature and see for yourself what's in it. That said, what you just saw is how the envelope needs to be filled out. If the envelope is not filled out that way, then stand by. For stand by, the council, you'll hear sometimes Apostle Ladislaw, council gonna get you, but in a microphone. And you'll be brought before the court, and they will fine you. And the purpose for that is because the bishop doesn't have time to be actually looking at the different parts of the envelope to see where the number is, the house, the amount. Uh, it's designed to save him time by putting the information over here. You might have the amount of whatever's in the envelope. Over here, you have the house. Over here, you might have other information. But it's just designed so that he knows where to look and it doesn't take him time to find it. That's all. It's out of convenience for him.
So here's the challenge that comes along with it. It looks simple enough. It seems simple enough. However, especially when you're a small house,
Yeah.
you have people who want to support you. So you might be lining up, getting ready to go down the aisle. You got your envelope filled out already. But
Right.
people hand you reports. Here, I want you to add this into your report. A lot of times they do that. That's the competition thing too. They wait till that moment so nobody knows how much they gave,
Right.
or something like that. And they'll give you something. You got to put it in the envelope, but you got to make sure that the outside of the envelope, the digital part as well as where you spell it out, matches what's on the inside. And you best believe it's the highest number that they're going to go with. So, for example, if your report is, for example, $10,000, and you accidentally wrote one too many zeros, you got $90,000. You better come up with it.
Oh yeah, 9,000. Yeah, because your mistake, and you can't go up there and be like, "Oh, my bad."
Right?
No, my bad ain't gonna work. Not in the United House of Prayer for All
No,
People.
no.
It might work in Tabernacle of Prayer for All People. There's some other organization. It's not in the UHOP. Um, but it's all out of convenience. Um, and what he's getting at, remember we talked about G class, right? Convocation. And because it's this competition between all the houses, he just said another important point that some people will wait. They will hold on to what they're going to give in your congregation. And they might give it when you're going up because they don't want the secretary to know how much money they have. Let's say if you're on the usher board and the secretary might be on the queens. Okay. But the secretary is looking at all the digits, looking at all the reports. So if you are the usher board and you have maybe $3,000 on your report, and the queen, they have maybe 2,500. Now the secretary is a queen, and she sees on these reports, and she says, "Oh snap, the ushers are going to beat us." So she might shoot a real quick text. And all of a sudden, you might have 800 extra dollars pop up for the queen board. And now the queens have beat the ushers. So to keep that from happening, the same thing with individual reports, people might wait till the last minute so that the secretary doesn't have time to call anybody and say, "Listen, we need to get a little bit of extra cheddar because such and such is beating us." This happens so often, so often. So people just wait. Now, what he's saying is if you give them an extra $800 as they're going up, you have to make sure you're adding that $800 on that figure outside the envelope. You put the cash inside, then on the inside, you need to change that figure too on the form. But on the outside of the envelope, that figure need to be changed. And if you happen to be nervous or somebody bump your elbow and you scribble something else and you like it's just a mistake. No, that little slash might look like an extra 10 grand. You're going to be held responsible for that. So we've seen individuals get up in that chair, especially new pastors. And it is the funniest thing because the council, they be sitting there snickering and laughing. And especially when you don't know what to expect. And they start hitting you with those fines, and all of a sudden, you're up $18,000 in fines, and you're like, wait, 18,000, $18,000, and this is real. Do you remember when they used to lock pastors up?
Oh yeah, you used to have jail.
They find a location on the premises. It might be a utility closet. But they will put you there, hold you there until that money has arrived to post your bail.
Secretaries too.
Now that I didn't know.
Yeah, they put the secretary in jail.
You can't make this stuff up.
Dude, we was in
Oh
this for so
God.
many years, dude.
And we
Man,
we did it wholeheartedly, willingly.
wholeheartedly sold out.
Couldn't wait to get back and do some more.
Man,
And we cheering whenever we gave all of our money. We broke everybody lined up after services at in McDonald's drive-through line, but hit the value menu because you can get that double cheeseburger, two for $3. But House of Prayer, not those $2 chicken wings. And don't have children. You know, y'all,
oh my goodness.
your family will learn the meaning of sharing after services in House of Prayer. Um, but you get there to McDonald's, you see about a line full of House of Prayer members. I'm telling you,
Yeah. Right
blasting
now,
music,
baby's phone.
having the after service in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the Constitution, how bold was that to put the senior minister in the Constitution that says he's going to preside over the trial, meaning that he's going to pretty much conduct it. And then he's going to be the one to pick, he's going to designate a councilman to be the prosecutor of the bishop litigating the charges. In other words, he's going to argue, you shouldn't have did this, you shouldn't have did that. Why'd you do this? While the bishop has an attorney representing them. So the whole thing is them controlling the narrative of how it's going to be spun to make it look like to the organization, well, we tried the bishop and there was a charge, but during the trial it was discovered that these charges really, you know what I mean? And so, well, it was unfounded. It was proven, and the bishop was found not guilty. So we thank you all for your time and your attention, and let's get on back to business. That's what this is about. Go ahead.
And that prosecutor is really going to be playing a role.
Right.
Just like if you are a part of a fraternal organization and there's the people that are carrying you through, they're just pretending to carry a role so that you have this experience. And that's what that prosecutor is going to be doing. Just be pretending. He's not really going to be trying to prosecute because he's in that game.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting his back scratched just like he's scratching their back. Yeah. And I was saying that I believe the former bishop would have had his daughter to represent him since she is a practicing attorney, right? It would be interesting to find out her case record. It'd be really interesting to find out her case record, to find out how many cases that she's litigated, and what the outcome of those cases were. But anyway, I also believe that he would have had Apostle Cunningham at the time designate Jimmy Jones. Have you seen through the videos how quickly Jimmy Jones is being, Apostle Jones is being pushed to the front? Have you been following this?
Well, I've been following the videos, but I've really been lost when you say that name because the guy that I think about is like a young dude, and I'm like, he can't be where I'm hearing he is now.
Yeah.
Like, he has been launched.
Yeah.
It's a trip to me.
He came out of New York, New England, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was pastoring down in, for a little while, Virginia Beach in Hickory, Virginia. And he was taken out of there in 2021.
Now, here's a question. When did he start pastoring?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me see, 21, 11, I went to maybe 90, 97, 98, maybe. I know when I first got to the seminary, he was one of the newest instructors there, but he wasn't really an instructor. They kind of, at that time, even gave him, a little made up position.
What year did you go to the seminary?
My first year, I went in 2000. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, and
I
then
graduated in 2000.
ah, yeah, uh, that was my first. When was your time there?
I went in '99, graduated in 2000.
Okay.
I was salutatorian under I forget the brother's name.
And even then, it's
Rodney.
politics.
Rodney.
Wait a minute.
He was the valedictorian. I was
Wait
salutatorian.
a minute. I went in '99.
So you
I was
must
in
have
the
went in a
second.
different section.
Right. Because there's two class periods. You were in either the first one, I was in the second one, or I was in the first one and you were in the second one.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but Rodney was in my class. He was my class captain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that's when I found out that there was politics even in the seminary.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting hundreds and everything. And I believe at that time to help certain people get ahead, um, I would answer questions on my tests. And if, let's say, for example, in the law, right, Apostle Flowers was teaching law class. If there's a true and false question, and the question says, people must do yada, 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 I would say false. And I would circle the must and I'd write on there shall to let it be known I'm just showing off why I know that it was
Mm-hmm.
false. Well, he would mark the answer wrong. And I'm like, well, why is this wrong? He's like, because you changed the question. The question is not shall, the question is must.
Mm-hmm.
And my score instead of 100 was like 87, 85. Um, all because I did that, right? So, long story short, I thought it was a joke the first time. And so I did it again in another test.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing. He hit me with another low score. Anyway, there's so much politics in the house of prayer. Um, and I did not know that it goes all the way to the top. And what we're looking at is the fact that the corruption rises all the way to the top. And we're looking at the most egregious act of this corruption when you see specific language in the Constitution where they're inserting laws to protect the bishop who's in fact and indeed violating the laws all over the place. Let's not even mention the laws of the New Testament. That's a whole nother ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone can come forward there. However, to have a senior minister being named to preside over this, that's where your politics come in. So, what I was saying about Apostle Jones, one, he had been given a position there at the seminary, made up position. Over the weekend, there's no classes, right?
Right.
So, his job for his first year at the seminary was to cover,
Maintenance class.
right.
Right.
On the weekend, that Saturday, he's going to go over maintenance. We have a maintenance class, walk you around the seminary, show you different stuff. Um, and, he rubbed me the wrong way that weekend because he was kind of abrasive, just having questions. Well, what did you hear me say? Well, didn't you hear me say that? Well, all right then. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. We're in the seminary.
Mm-hmm.
You're an instructor. Now, you should be lowering that tone, but I just smile. I'm like, okay, no problem. We'll just play this little game. And they tell you in the seminary that your captain can take 5 points away from your score to kind of keep you in line. And this is where the politics come in. That bullying, any tiny thing they don't like, they'll call you on it. I can take some of your points. I got to the point, I went in a second class. I went twice. And as a pastor, my class captain was Apostle Ladisall. And I just gave him my 5 points. You can just take my 5 points. That way I don't have to worry about this no more. And so from there, it was just smooth sail. I didn't have to worry about him. He didn't have to worry about me. And uh, it worked out better because you don't have to hear all that nitpicking. Because what you can do, I'm letting do that. Take my 5 points, it's over. But again, this is where I'm realizing the politics come in. When I saw this here at this time in 22, that's when I realized the former bishop wanted Apostle Cunningham to be the individual presiding over. And like you heard Brother Perry say, all of these men, they're in the corner together. They're going to be scratching each other's back. They're going to be looking out for one another, and it's all an act. Now, if they're willing to do this and to cover the bishop in the event that there's a trial because someone has discovered that he's been violating the law, if they're willing to go to these lengths to protect the bishop, then what justice and fairness do we have in the entire organization? What protections do we have for the members? What do you think?
It's only to the degree of that the person of the bishop. How far will he go? Because they're going to protect him no matter how far he goes.
Mm-hmm. And anything pertaining to this other person, you have no idea. Do you remember, were you here when there was a fight that broke out Memorial Day weekend between some sisters in Washington on the sidewalk?
Not that I recall.
I think it was right outside the convention center. Well, they were taken to court in Charlotte. I think the judgment was $5,000 fine for each one involved. My question is, why is it that the council is always hitting people with fines, and what's going on with that money? I've never been able to find the answer to that. Do you know?
Right. No clue. But yeah, that's the question that comes up. What $5,000? What was that? Was there damage? Did that $5,000 go towards the damages or something?
No, it's just that they found it embarrassing to the organization that we had two of our members in public fighting.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what the fine was for. You heard about another apostle and evangelist getting fined $10,000 for attending his granddaughter's wedding.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they had a wedding in the house of prayer, and for the wedding party portraits, they put up backdrops in front of the platform, in front of the mountain, but they're just white sheets. It's just for a backdrop, a cloth, so that the pictures of the bishops in the background don't show in your wedding portraits.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal. Okay. Because they put these sheets up, do you know they brought this man to court? And Apostle Commodore was the attorney in this case, governing attorney, along with Apostle Jock Taylor. He's now 601 M Street. And again, I know that these individuals do things in council in order to make names for themselves so that they can get pushed ahead. So Apostle Commodore is now a judge.
Oh my goodness.
Jock Taylor is now the pastor of the headquarters in Washington, D.C. But they set this man up and fined him $10,000 because he attended his granddaughter's wedding and she had sheets up. Now, what they didn't know is that Apostle Commodore, he has sheets up every single day covering up the mountain at the house that he's pastoring. Every day. I remember visiting when the bishop was out, and I went downstairs, and in the chapel, the lower chapel, I got so angry because right off the kitchen in the lower chapel, they had tables set up where they were cooking and selling in the lower chapel. If the fire department had seen that, that would have been an immediate fire hazard. They would have shut down the whole event and fined the organization. Um, but inside, they were using the mountain for storage, boxes, canned goods, all that stuff. And they had a rope hanging across the front of the mountain and had sheets dangling so that you couldn't really see behind those sheets that the mountain was being used for storage.
Wow.
They had moved the pews, had taken the pews up off the floor, and I didn't know where they were, but they weren't there. Um, Wait a minute, I can't remember if there was pews. No, no, no. Downstairs was chairs, so all the chairs were gone. Um, Now I found the hypocrisy in this because you're the governing attorney to fine him $10,000 because of something he didn't do. His granddaughter did for about 20 minutes to take some pictures during a wedding. Anybody would understand that. But you are doing this throughout the weeks, months, and the year in order to raise more money for the kitchen, right? But nothing happened. The council knew that he's doing this because when the bishop visited, guess who's up and down them steps, going down back and forth to the kitchen? All those other councilmen. But none of them raised that issue in court when they fined that evangelist. And we know that it was because this particular evangelist was telling the business of the council whenever he put on a revival. He was talking about what they do on the road. He was telling it all. And so they used that as a way to penalize and punish him. So when you're seeing activity like this coming from the leaders at the top, what do you expect, or what can you expect that's going to happen from the members?
Well, they're going to follow what they have seen.
There going to be any holiness or sanctification or honor or integrity amongst the followers?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Do you recall any case that you've ever seen where you saw people get justice in the courts of the House of Prayer?
No, no. I'm gonna tell you that I always felt like I always felt like this is made up. You know, when we were in the court system, like they're pretending.
Yeah.
It's just something I always felt. It didn't make me question the bishopric or anything like that, spiritual part, but it's like they're just pretending in this part right here. I guess this is for our legal stuff, but it's not real. It can't be real. Like, okay, all these fines, where does this money go?
Mm-hmm.
What is this money for? What are all these fines for? My son, he chooses not to go to the hospital to this day. But the reason he chooses not to go is because when he goes, he knows he's going to get fined for something. Either he gets fined because he wears an afro and his afro is too big, or he gets fined because they made up their mind that they're going to wear black ties and he's got a black tie on, but he's got dots on his black tie. So he says that it's just easy for me not to go. If I don't go, I won't get fined. But if I go, they're going to find some reason to fine me.
Now,
Like, wow.
is he on the band or is he an elder or?
No, he's on the band.
Yeah. And he getting hit left and right just as much as anybody else.
Oh my God! And it's not just Sundays. It's not just Tuesday night or Thursday night. It's Wednesday night. You're not in uniform. What? I was just stopping by on my way from work. Okay, well that's a fine.
Somebody try and get in Daddy's club. um, when you look at this whole scenario, if the corruption is so obvious and it's right out in front of your face, then what could be the hope for the organization or for the members going forward. If they got away with this, if we didn't catch this, if nobody saw this, this would now be the constitution that the organization is going to be held to. Right now, they're trying to hold the organization to this constitution. Um, Last year, Mickey Bailey wrote a suggestion from the Constitutional Revision Committee, which incidentally is the same committee that Bishop Cunningham was on as Apostle Cunningham, and the General Assembly Secretary, and the and the head judge. Every time I say this, I laugh because it's so crazy.
Right.
You have one individual in all these seats to ensure that you're being protected. The head judge is going to protect the bishop. The General Assembly Secretary is going to protect the bishop. Senior minister is going to protect the bishop. I'm making sure that one person is in all these seats because it's going to guarantee pretty much that I'm going to get away with anything and everything I feel like doing. And so we don't see any accountability of any kind from anyone unless it's the little teeny tiny members being brought forward to embarrass them. Even elders and pastors. If you're not in the crowd, the inside, we call it a boys club, within. If you're not amongst the boys club, you're just going to get hit, and it's just a matter of time before you're embarrassed in front of the organization. Talking about your situation, you when they took you and set you up to have you come out of pastoring, was that in the lower court or was that in the higher court when the bishop was present?
The initial statement was made in lower court, and then they brought it to the bishop in the higher court.
And was there anything done by the bishop in order to come to your aid, your rescue, an inquiry made, even an investigation into the matter?
Nothing. It's like the decision was made in lower court, and they just told it to the bishop in the upper court.
And did you have a chance to speak on your own behalf, to present your case, to try to appeal to the bishop's ear, to let you share with him what has happened or where the confusion might be?
Honestly, in that situation, I was crying so hard I couldn't even talk. So if I did have the opportunity, I wouldn't know it because I was too emotional. I couldn't even talk. I had to just sit there and just look at them because I couldn't breathe right. I couldn't talk. The tears were just flowing out of my eyes, and I felt like if I opened my mouth, I would just bust out crying. I was very, very hurt because the part that I was hurt at is I started this congregation in the living room of my apartment.
Right.
I bore all of the expenses. Whatever is there, all of the money that has been paid over the years is because I went to this city that didn't have one, and you're going to see what you call a mistake or a book, something wrong with the book, which was nothing, and remove me. That was hurtful. That hurt, and so I was crying. And so I don't know that I had the opportunity. I couldn't talk it, even if I could. Even if they had given me the opportunity. But again, like I said, I was already on my way out because I had already been seeing stuff.
And this was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, this was like, I'm gone. I'm fine. I'm done. Yeah.
And it was also something else you mentioned, the fact that you had absolutely zero problems, zero complaints, zero violations before this came up, correct?
Right. I had never had a violation. Not myself nor my secretary.
And that was in how many years that you were present?
9 or 10.
9 or 10 years before they built the house of prayer there. And
before I got that house built was 7 years.
Mm. 7 years before they built the house. Um, and then he began to have problems because now that he got a house, he's being pressured uh, to make sure the people are born again, to make sure that people are living right, to make sure that you're going out into the community to help feed the hungry. What was the problems that you had? Any of those that I just mentioned?
No, those are the good times.
But the problems that you had coming from the men in the council,
Council, that's it, yeah.
and those problems were stirred up not because they needed you to build people and help the community and go out and assist the poor or the hungry or the naked or visiting the sick and the in prison. None of those were your issues coming from the court.
No, Supreme Court, my issue was I had a slush fund.
He had talked
According
about
to what they say.
he had talked about this before, where he reported money in the back of the book because there was nowhere to log it in the front of the book, and they used that to get him out of pastoring. And it's questionable because his case actually went before the bishop. And you just heard him say that he was so emotional that he couldn't speak. My question would have been, what is it that the bishop said or did, or why is it that he did not do anything to prevent the council from moving him? This is an individual who started that particular house of prayer from his living room, went
And
out.
you know what came to me afterwards? One of the former chairman and the chairman at the time, both of them came to me. And they said, "Oh, Perry, you don't know what Daddy did for you." I'm like, "Huh?" They said, "Oh, he working for you, working on you in biblical proportions."
Mm,
And so what that let me know is all of that was a part of a plan, even that the bishop was in on. It was all a part of a plan. And I believe that that plan was for me to become the pastor of San Francisco. And, but not for my gain, for them. Because
right.
I was somebody who they were thinking that they could control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am somebody that was ambitious. I wanted to get as far as I could, grow as much as I could, but you couldn't control me. You know, they couldn't control me like that. They didn't even know what I was thinking. Like I said, I wasn't just trying to be a pastor and make some G class. I was trying to develop a state. There were only when I first moved to San Francisco, the only houses of prayer were San Diego, which was a matchbox. I mean, that was the smallest thing I ever saw. The original San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
LA, San Francisco. That was it when I first moved to California. Portland started after I moved back. Well, not after, like around the time I moved back. And Seattle started, uh, Seattle, they were just a couple members that were there. And they were just kind of like forced to start as a congregation because St. Charles had been there since Daddy Grace's day
In Seattle.
in Seattle. A lot of people don't know nothing about McCullough
Wow.
because
Wow.
she had been there in Seattle that whole time, and there was no house of prayer up there. So yeah, when I first moved to California, all I saw was San Diego, LA, and San Francisco. So when I went to Portland State University and I started seeing Sacramento, I was the assistant pastor of Portland. Seattle was coming up, and I wanted to go start another works. I went to Sacramento. But in Sacramento, I saw 3 houses in that city. That doesn't even include Lincoln.
Mm-hmm. Where
Lincoln was happening on
Joshua
its
was.
own.
Yeah.
So I saw 3 houses, and then Lincoln was coming up, but the future, not just those three houses, Medford, Oregon, and Eureka, Oregon, on I-5. Both of them go straight up to Portland. Perfect places. Uh, and in the Pacific Northwest, see, this is one thing the House of Prayer leadership, or anything, they don't consider stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
The Pacific Northwest is not a Bible Belt church place or anything like that. The House of Prayer got started in the Carolinas, in the South. I mean, yeah, Bedford, Massachusetts, and all that, but the core of it is in the South, in the Bible Belt. It didn't have that same result on the Pacific Northwest. Them folks ain't thinking about going to quote unquote church up there. They're looking for gold. You know,
Yeah.
people high in education,
Yeah.
high in financial value.
The 49ers, 1949 gold rush.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And so the culture is different once you're going up into the Pacific Northwest. And you can't just take that Bible Belt idea and put it up there. You have to understand the culture and grow from the culture of that land, not try to bring a culture from 4,000 miles away and make those people accept that. That ain't gonna work. So I realized that, and when I was in Portland, we grew. Portland grew. We had things going on. But I realized we're not trying to make Charlotte, North Carolina in Portland, Oregon.
Right.
We let Portland be what Portland is.
Right.
And I started playing with a gospel band out there. We traveled to Medford and Eugene. And I was traveling with a band, but at the same time, I'm this house of prayer preacher. I'm like, oh, these are great places to start a house of prayer.
And all of that activity was completely lost when they converged on him simply because they wanted to use what they could refer to as a slush fund to kill what he was doing. And now my understanding is those 70 people that you had brought in fact, it was more than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was 70 who actually joined, signed a role. But we have way more than that.
And they're now nowhere.
The way I understand it, none of the people that I brought go anymore at all. The doors, I went back to visit 2 years ago, just the city, and anytime I would go by the house of prayer, the doors were always locked. And the thing that was brought to my attention was the pastor's wife is a celebrity, so he has to keep her protected. I'm like, man, I've been in the service with Little Richard, with Michael Johnson, with Judge Mathis, Solomon Burke. They never close the doors when these famous people are in there.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah. And it was said that for the most part, throughout the week, that the doors are closed.
For the entirety, even Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that, unfortunately, around the organization. And apparently, it's something that, again, nothing is being done about. Because, for the most part, once again, no accountability for anything. Individuals can report things and they can go forward with things. But it doesn't matter because if there's no interest in it, then nothing's going to happen. And what I mean by that is there's no interest whatsoever in people coming out to hear the word of the scripture, to draw closer to the Lord. Anything in regard to soul saving. There really is an effort to simply get money out of individuals' pockets. And if your concern, if your priority is not there, then they're going to give their full undivided attention to somehow getting you shut down.
That's right. Get somebody in there that's going to be after the money.
Mm-hmm. Now, doesn't matter that he built that congregation. Over 70 people. 70 just put their name on the roll, but way more than 70 people to come in visiting. And this has happened in other congregations: Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, San Diego, California, um, Marion, Arkansas, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, New Orleans, Louisiana. Um, there's another one out there. uh, all of these young men that were doing things, including myself, in San Antonio, where they're exhausting their funds, utilizing their own efforts, not any assistance whatsoever. And you have the council whose job it is to protect the organization, um, but in their desire to protect the bishop, they're really going to kill anything that's not bringing money in. So as they travel around, it has nothing to do with laws. They don't care about these laws. They'd only listen. How many times, when you were pastoring all your years in the house of prayer, how many times did you hear any reference to the law whatsoever?
In service?
Service, council, court,
No, never.
never.
I mean, maybe doing counsel or something like that.
Is it because they were going by the law and citing the law and quoting the law and referring to the law?
No, it was usually because they were finding something that go against the law or something like that.
Right. And that's only if they're trying to nail you on something.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Um, but other than that, you'd hear nothing whatsoever about the law, which,
Nothing. Which was a trip because whenever we go to Memorial Day, it was always, asking, make sure you get the books, make sure you get the books. Okay, you get the books, but then you don't ever use them for that.
right, that part.
Unless you're studying them on your own, which I did because I wanted to know.
Hmm.
So I was studying on my own, but other than, you're just buying the books and they never come up again.
So if you're studying the law and you're abiding by the law, walking in the law, teaching the law, then where did the law benefit you as a pastor?
Well, it didn't. I thought it, knowing it instead it would protect me, but it didn't. It was just something I almost want to say used against me.
Right. And there was something interesting that you said in the comments. You draw questions to the 5013C status. You want to expound on that a bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a federal status.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, we're talking about the Constitution. What that says is this constitutes this organization. And then you open that book and it spells it out. So, in order to have a 501c3, you have to have a constitution. You have to define what constitutes the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a general meeting of everyone, of every entity, every group, every congregation, or whatever, which is the General Assembly. Every individual doesn't have to be there, but they have to be represented.
Mm-hmm.
And those are to maintain that federal nonprofit status. So if you have this outline that says this is what constitutes this organization, however, you don't do anything that's written that, constitutes this organization. To me, that's what is in question. that you're not protected then by the federal government or by the governing of it. What is the purpose of you having a constitution? What is the purpose of you saying this constitutes this organization and you don't adhere to these things?
Right. Right. And this is what I've questioned for the longest because it really does look like that all of this literature is being written just to build and create another income stream. That is it.
Mm.
To sell the literature, sell the book. Incidentally, I understand that there's another magazine. Now think about this. I've talked about how the members are being exploited to use them to also create revenue. I talked about the bands being used and the music with the choirs, the bands being told don't play outside, but in here only. You use your gift in here only. You don't take your gift out there to the world and let the devil use you in the world. All these things, okay? But when they make their CDs in here, those bands don't get a penny,
Nothing.
not a dime. Nothing for uniforms, nothing for their instruments, nothing for travel, nothing for their hotel expenses, nothing for food, nothing to eat or
I'll take
drink.
you another step further as well.
Hmm.
The one who basically, one of the main ones who produce these albums is a pastor and is hardly ever at his congregation because he's always traveling to make that music stuff happen. And in his house, the music is suffering. They don't even have a band
Mm.
functioning in his house.
Mm-mm. See, go ahead.
Now, I was just saying what you're saying. Nobody is getting a benefit from it, but the organization.
Yeah. And this has some deeply seated concerns, especially when the people are not benefiting from anything. The people are not being given what they're told they're going to be given. The people are not being protected at all, none whatsoever. The people are not being treated with love, care, or even kindness. The people are not getting any form of equality. The people are not getting justice. If there's a complaint, if there's a problem, if there's an issue, there is no conflict resolution. It's just you suck it up, you deal with it to the best of your ability. Nobody's going to look into your matter. I talked about a situation where there's a man who happens to have also not only been in the level of elder, but amongst the ministers. This one was an assistant. But many of the members know that doing all kinds of things. And unfortunately, this spans across the organization where women back and forth getting angry. Sometimes the women are in fights. Sometimes the wives of these men are in fights with women of the congregations because of these men. Sometimes you have the men whose wives is with them every single place they go so they can keep an eye on them. Um, it's very, very sad. Um, but what he's getting at, talking about that 501c3, what we're talking about, these publications, besides the bands being used and the music making money for the organization, they get nothing for it, but told not to play outside. And if they do play outside, guess what they get hit with?
A silence and fire.
A silence or a fine. Band members were being fined $5,000 for going to play in a famous parade um, in the city of brotherly love. Right now, you have band members who cannot come back to the house of prayer to play because they have yet to pay that fine that they were told that they need to pay before they play again. So the love that they have of music, that they enjoy, is being used as a weapon against them to ensure that they don't go outside the house of prayer to play their music because then the house of prayer won't be able to make money off of it. Talk about exploiting. Same thing I talked about the apartments and the buses. Here's another one. Talking about these publications making money off of them. What do you know, Brother Perry, about requests for individuals to send their testimonies in so that they also can be published?
Well, the only thing I know about that is, to me, it's bad on the House of Prayer part. And that is, if you read the magazine, you'll notice every testimony is what Daddy did. Daddy did this, Daddy did that. But what I know for a fact, there are so many testimonies that are sent in, they may not say what Daddy did. They may just talk about, I had this situation, I had faith, and this is how God brought me out. They won't put that in the magazine.
Right. Right. It's heavily scrutinized as well as sifted through. If you're not talking about the bishop, it's not going to make it. At
It's not gonna make
times,
it.
they will even doctor that testimony and put the bishop in. Um, how unfortunate. Now, what he just said is one problem with these testimonies. Here's another problem. What do they do with those testimonies, Brother Perry, that people mail into the headquarters?
They put them in a magazine and sell the magazine to the members.
Now they're making money off of people's testimonies.
Right.
Every single thing is about using the people to make money. They need you to write testimonies, so they can sell a publication. And what you're going to get in the publication are more pictures of the bishop, letters of the bishop, announcements of events coming up that the whole organization already know about. I understand in this particular magazine coming out, there's a picture of the bishop, and this bishop got some of the biggest pictures I've ever seen in my life throughout my years in the House of Prayer. The biggest pictures. It's one thing to have a picture of you. It's like every government facility has to have a picture of the president. But it's another thing to have a life-size portrait.
Wow.
Talk about our egos. Members all over the organization thought that there was a problem because the picture came in. The picture was as big as people. You got these missions with these 5 foot, 7 foot, 4 by 6 foot pictures hanging on the wall, and the ceiling might be maybe 11 feet tall. It's so funny. Anyway, in the new magazine, it's not just a picture, but same thing. In the tradition so far of this bishop, you have a bifold. On one page, it flips open, and you see a full picture unfolded. It's just, it goes to show the mindset is not on the people. The mindset is on the leader. And to have laws written in the Constitution to give the people the impression that y'all came up with this so that the Get Along Gang can appoint individuals in order to protect each other so that they can keep the jig going forward. It is the most heinous of crimes. It's, again, you can't make this stuff up. As we get ready to come to a close in this, do you want to touch on, or you want to save that for another video, a couple of those other issues that you recalled when you were pastoring or even came out of pastoring? And what I was about to touch on was even with myself, after putting in all of the effort and bringing people in for years out here doing this with no assistance, and then with one visit, the council or the bishop, in my case, the council did not show up at all. Talk about a setup. No one other than the district chairman. And I'm going to play this recording because what you're going to hear is little shots that he was taking against me, setting me up. Um, and people don't understand, but I'm going to point out the shots that he was taking. Uh, I didn't know that you needed a coat hanger to put the bishop's coat on when he comes. I had a wooden coat rack hanger. I'm thinking you just hang the coat up, right? By that little tag in the back. You just hook it, right, on one of the hooks. I didn't know that you have an actual coat hanger. And they put his coat on the hanger, and then they hang the hanger on the coat rack. I didn't know that. So he called me to tell me he didn't see a coat hanger. I'm like, well, there's a coat rack up there. I don't know. Is a hanger necessary? They just hang his coat up. No, 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 no. They don't hang his coat on the rack. They hang it on a hanger. And then you put little, I know you're busy running around. Let me go take care of that. Okay. Well, good. Thank you. I appreciate it. When I got there and I saw the coat hanger, you know those little white plastic coat hangers from Walmart? You know what I'm talking about? Those plastic,
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
the blue rubber corners. That's what was on there, on the coat hanger. And I'm sure that he pointed it out to give the impression that that's what I thought of the bishop. Now, when I went to the house of prayer that he was pastoring, I noticed the coat hanger there. It was like a custom made $50, $60, $70 coat hanger with the silk embroidering, the gold plated coat hanger. A beautiful coat hanger. Beautiful. And I thought, why would you go and get that little 75-cent plastic coat hanger? I didn't realize it until later on. All these things began to surface. Um, but anyway, I share that because, as you saw with Brother Perry, the underhanded tactics that they use, and then to put things in the Constitution to cover them to ensure that they remain in their positions while everybody else being humiliated, embarrassed, and taken advantage of by the ones at the top. But they ensure that they're going to remain there, calling all the shots, doing all the things to herd the people like cattle. You want to touch on anything else before we close out? I know that there was a couple of other things that we had talked about, or you want to save those for next time?
Well, I do want to say this, that the outcome of them not heeding the Constitution has a huge residual effect.
Big time.
Just think, imagine if the House of Prayer really had the 3 million followers that CPM Magazine said. But imagine the outcome of these 3 million followers are following leadership that gives no heed to its own laws, rules, and regulations, and thereby justifies their actions. If you have the followers doing that, you have a society of rebellious people who don't have a direction. You know, they don't have a destination. You know, somewhere that they're going to. They're just wandering aimlessly in life, taking advantage of every situation that they can.
Mm-hmm.
That is the detriment of not heeding your own Constitution. You're saying that this Constitution, you're saying that this book, the details of this book, constitutes what this organization is. However, you're doing so much that does not heed that at all, and you're leading so many others. That's all. I called it the other day when I said, even if I don't even have own a suit anymore. If one of my family members pass, I have to go rent a tuxedo or something like that to go to the homegoing. Well, I have a family member pass, and I got to go to service next weekend. But I'm gonna ride my motorcycle, wear my motorcycle jacket.
Mm-hmm. To be present.
I'm not going to get no suit, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But the reason is I do not want to be associated with that organization. When I hear certain things, when I watch videos, I put my hand on my head, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was a part of this for so long. I can't believe I was part of the people that invoke a spirit of a man
Mm-hmm.
and think that they're calling on the power and the wisdom of the Most High God.
Mm-hmm.
Yet they're picturing this man and they're invoking even his own, secret sins, uh,
Iniquity.
iniquity. See how far I am now?
It's all good.
And they don't know that they're doing that. They
Right.
have no clue. You're calling on that name, you're picturing that man, and you think that you're calling on the power and wisdom of the Most High God, which you are not at all.
Mm-hmm.
And possessing yourself to such a degree that you will give your last to a rich man. You have mortgage, you have rent, you have bills to pay. You have to feed yourself and your family. That rich man has no bills to pay, has
Mm-hmm.
no mortgage, unless he has some things that he's doing on the outside, which is out there becoming millionaires. Unless he has those things, but he can exist in life and just be a rich man. Don't have to worry about a mortgage, rent, or those bills. But you will take of your last to give to him to increase his wealth. He's probably sleeping on a very nice mattress, and you're probably sleeping on a box spring. I know so many of my loved ones. You go to their house, they might have a picture up or a pen, a ribbon full of pins about how they've been the top player, but they don't have a couch or a kitchen table or dressers to put their clothes. They struggle from week to week to put gas in the car just to get to the house of prayer. So it's to the detriment of the people, and that's why I'm excited about this movement.
Yeah.
Because I want it to improve. I have a lot of loved ones that are in there, and they don't realize how they're harming themselves. I don't necessarily want to go into a lot of my experiences. The reason why, I was way out there on the West Coast, and I was dealing with individuals. I could tell you things about individuals that are very, very bad, but that's bringing up those individuals, and that's not what I'm about with this. I want this organization to treat my loved ones better by doing better for themselves. If you have a constitution, follow your constitution. Every other community-based organization has to do that. So why not this organization?
And it is coming. It is coming. I wasn't going to touch on this, but since you did, let me just share. He talked about the detriment of not following your own laws, your own constitution. Uh, I was going to make an announcement a few days ago, and I'll just touch on that announcement now. Um, I said that this is a done deal, that the council's finished, the bishop is finished. And what I meant by that is that, quite frankly, I'm not exaggerating anything. I'm not using any terms to coat my meaning. I'm saying exactly what it is that I'm saying, that they're finished. This is their last grandstand, the last hurrah. Um, I believe they know it. So I wanted to hear from Brother Perry as we touch on this one section. Um, I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about the procedure of the General Assembly and the process, how it's supposed to go, the order of the General Assembly, to show you all that that has not been followed. And what he just said is the most important thing that we all need to keep in mind and remember, is because it shows that the organization is not abiding by the Constitution at all. Now, with that said, last year, when I put out my proposal, I sent it in. They sent it back saying this is not a proposal for this year's General Assembly. Okay. They know that my proposal had in it charges against the bishop as well as the general council. Now, there's nothing more that they need to do in order to be removed. They've committed so many violations, and they know this. So now, what we're preparing for is to ensure that they are brought forward and held accountable for the things that they've done. If they continue to not abide by the rules of the Constitution, that will be their biggest mistake that they've ever made. And you and the members of that organization will then see just how damaging their actions are to their own selves. You will see how severe, how bad it is when the law that is supposed to govern you is not being applied nor enforced by the governing bodies of that particular organization. When they make that mistake, if they choose to make that mistake again, it will be the worst thing that they could possibly do. I say that to say this. Right now, we're at the point where you are hearing about the Constitution and from former pastors that were illegally removed under a corrupt leader as well as a corrupt general council by utilizing men in different positions to hinder individuals that's trying to live by. You heard him say, he studied the law. He abided by the law. You've heard me say, I've studied the law. I've abided by the law. We taught other people the law. Only to have individuals get rid of us because we were walking within the confinements of the law. Therefore, we became a threat to them. And they were intimidated by us and anybody doing what we did. So as a result of that, that brings us to where we are now. And here's your problem. There's no way they can go. Nowhere they can go. Their back is against the wall, and there's nothing at all that they can do to stop this. So when you hear Brother Perry talk about this movement, this has become just that, a movement to move the leaders of the organization to do not only what is right, not only what is best for the organization, but also what the law says they must do. The law says, the Constitution says, that they must adhere to the law. Here's your biggest problem. If they don't adhere to the law, then the law of the land will make them adhere to the law. They don't want to go outside of the house of prayer to have to face these charges. The best thing for the bishop, Bishop Cunningham, for the general council, all of you councilmen, every single one of you, is to adhere to the Constitution. They're going to be getting some paperwork. And it's going to alert everyone to what's happening next, what to expect next. So, long story short, every member, prepare yourselves because, again, this is over. Your general council, many of your pastors, most of them will be done. They'll be gone. The bishop will be gone. Um, Now, the best thing for them is to go ahead and do what the law says, the Constitution says that they are to do. This Constitution is an illegal Constitution, 2023. 2022 is an illegal Constitution. 2009 is an illegal Constitution. The only one I have, the latest, or I'm sorry, the oldest Constitution I have in my possession is a 2009. However, I know that that too is illegal, but I don't have an older Constitution to go by, so I will be adhering to the letter of the 2009 Constitution, even though it is illegal. But I will be using that as a model to show and confirm and verify the illegal actions of the council, the senior minister, the head judge, the General Assembly secretary, and the bishop, including the proposal committee and anybody on the Constitutional Revision Committee. That said, they then will need to comply. If they do, then the worst thing that will happen is that they will simply be removed from their positions. That's the worst thing that'll happen if they do it in-house, inside the house of prayer, according to our law. If they don't comply, then they have now made it obvious and visibly aware to everyone that there is no intent of abiding by the Constitution. There is no intent of abiding by nor enforcing our laws. There is no intent by the governing bodies to comply or hold each other accountable to the law. Now it's over. So, in order for them to hold each other accountable, they have to serve one another notice. That said, in serving notice, they know that as we prepare going forward, that they have a few weeks left before they give an account to their actions. Again, the worst that will happen is they will be dismissed from their positions. If they don't comply to this law, then they have a bigger problem. Because if this goes outside the house of prayer, then it becomes such a mess because the members of the organization will then hear about all the things that y'all don't yet know. And instead of just being removed from their positions, many individuals will be facing a whole lot of harsher penalties and punishments. So it would be best to deal with this according to the letter of the law in our Constitution. That said, what Brother Perry just said will happen, and then we can go forward and do what we're supposed to be doing and help one another, benefit each other, and get the organization back on track in alignment with the scripture, as well as in alignment with the Constitution, and go forward with the powers of the people being restored to the people so that we can do things transparently and hold each other accountable from that time going forward. So not only is this a very productive movement, but we're about to come to a close because all of this is almost over. That said, Brother Perry, you have anything else that you'd like to share or say?
Just to everyone know, you are worth being loved for real, not that for fake love, the for real love, cared about. According to the scripture, take my yoke upon you. Take my yoke. Take the collar that I'll put around your neck. Take it upon you and learn of me. Don't not learn of anybody else. Learn of me. You'll find that my yoke is easy. My burdens, they are light. Now, for those of you still in the organization, especially those of you 100% committed, answer that question for yourself. Is that yoke easy? Is that burden light? That tells you the fact of the matter. We are worthy of being loved. You are worthy of being entreated gently. You are worthy. Just think, we're talking about our Father. How many fathers out there? You have children. Your children are dear to you. You don't push them down. You lift them up. So we're worthy to be loved. You're worthy to be loved. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Just remember that. I want that all members always remember that.
Thank you so much for plugging that and the piggyback what he just said. We're living in some very strange times and some confusing times and some very questionable times. However, no matter what time we're living in at any time, no matter what's going on around us, with us, due to other people or whatever's going on in our personal lives, if we keep our trust and faith, as he just mentioned, in the one that we know can take care of all of our issues, ease all of our burdens, and make a way out while providing what we need and giving us safety, security, as well as eternal life and salvation, joy unspeakable, on top of all these things that might be causing other people worryation and stress and anxiety, then it's very much worth it. Um, with that in mind, I want to thank you all for your time. We're going to
Thank
be,
you for having me too.
oh, absolutely. I was about to share that we're going to be having Brother Perry back with us again on several times going forward. We're going to continue this um, despite whatever happens. So we'll be giving you updates and informing you what it is that you should expect next. No matter what we do behind closed doors, as we send out things to individuals, every single thing we do is going to be transparent. You will know about it. We're going to be putting all this information out, and things will be made available to you, so you don't have to wait to hear from pastors and chairmen or even headquarters. You'll have everything that at your fingertips. So at the push of a button, you'll be able to print up your own copies of anything going forward that we're going to be producing and sending out. So thank you all for your time. And that said, we'll see you in the next video. Have a good night, everybody.